welcome back to another episode of Black and Beautiful Chit Chat Connections. I see y'all, my Black and Beautiful family. We are here with another one for you. I mean, a great guest. And I say this about every single one of my guests. I realize that I'm always like, yes, they're great. But I don't think you guys understand. We got Black greatness on this channel. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button so we make it through the algorithm. But today's podcast is Black women's health and wellness, baby. Listen, I said, ooh, let me wear my batu nuts today because we making a statement out here, okay? Black women is the topic and Black women will be talking about it. I'm so excited for this topic, guys. We have a lot coming at you. And you know what I mean? We going to have like segments. We going to make it juicy. We going to have a conversation. And most importantly, we're going to introduce this beautiful woman who is going to be here gracing us with her presence. So I want to give you guys a highlight from last week. Last week, you and I engaged with Alex Dumas. He gave us some strategies on developing your talent. Yes, guys, if you need a career coach or a leadership coach, please shout out to Alex Dumas and make sure you watch that last episode and click on all of his links, which are always in the description box below. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. But that gets me into today's episode, Black Women's Health and Wellness with LaurenDorvil, MPH. We had to put them letters on the end of that. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give our guest an opportunity to introduce herself to us because we are so excited to have you here. LaurenDorvil, tell us, who are you? What's your background? And how did we meet?
Charlene, it's always good talking to you, and I am so excited to be here. So thanks you and beautiful Black Chit Chat Conversations. A little bit about me. I'm a Brooklyn girl. Here by way of SUNY Albany. I just finished my MPH in December, so I am excited to be doing the work of public health, especially around Black women's health. That is my passion. That is my work. That is my research. That is my lived experience. So I came to SUNY Albany really with the intention of figuring out how can we further Black women's health in research and practice, in literature, in healthcare, and in everyday connections, right? Because I consider these conversations, these chats, these are still a part of Black women's health and healing, right? One of the things I talk about in my business, LD Wellness, is that Black women's health is a unique experience and it needs a holistic strategy. It's not enough to just prescribe something or start an intervention or a program. We need to talk. We need to tell our stories. We need to be in community with one another. We need time to create and feel good, right? That's all a part of health, healing, and happiness. That's my motto. So I'm really excited to be here, to be doing this work, and to be in conversation with you today. So let's get into it.
Guys,
how did we meet?
Hold on. Yes, how did we meet? How did we meet, girl?
So I met you at, was it the Rose Garden brunch?
It was.
Yes. Quick thing about me, I love fashion. I love being cute, hair, nails, clothes, the whole package, okay? Period. And I met Charlene through one of our thrifting events. So my business partner and I, Leah Hunter, we co-own Girl Talk Thrift here in Albany, New York. And we were doing a vending and Charlene fell in love with some of our pieces. And I was like, that's nice. We got to be friends because hello. So here we are. So
yes.
Through fashion.
Yes. Through fashion brought us together, honey. Yes. That's why I said, I'm going to make a statement today with my Basu dots because right. You understand, like, this is my girl. You see, she got that beautiful orange on, bringing out her skin. If you guys had a chance, I hope you saw Black portrait photography with Rakaya Hernandez. I mean, she's an amazing photographer. Beautiful. And so you just make me think about how she talks about how light just bounces off of our skin as people of color. And I love it. So that orange is giving what it's supposed to give.
Thank you.
Black women are excellent. Yes. Black women are so excellent. So I always thank you for letting us know about LD Wellness. Can you give us a little bit more about what that is? I know you have multiple businesses, but talk to us a little bit about LD Wellness.
Sure. So this is a platform that is emerging, and I really wanted to create a space where Black women's health could be seen, heard, and supported. So through this platform, I conduct and share research on Black women's health and wellness. So we'll get into some of that conversation today, and I'm super excited because I'm a nerd at heart. Okay, I like data, I like numbers. I make it look cute, but I like them books. Okay. And I think that that's one of the things that's missing from medicine and the healthcare workforce is understanding Black women's health that's accurately documented in literature. So many articles and journal publications and whatever will say stuff like, we're not exactly sure why Black women are dying, or we don't really understand, because you're not talking to us, because you're not in our communities, because you don't value our traditions and our customs, right? You're trying to look at Black women from this one-dimensional Western lens, when really our experience is spiritual, it's emotional, it's soulful, right? A lot of our practices and our customs, they're word of mouth, they're things that are passed down, they're beliefs that are otherworldly, right? And we talked about how this is a Christian platform, right? Many of us have a connection to the divine and the spiritual, and a lot of our medicine and our healing comes from things that are not of this world. So I wanted to create a platform that, one, looked at Black women's research in terms of health and wellness, and making sure that Black women are being listened to, and that their voices and their stories are amplified, and that that information is being shared with the people that are prescribing us medication and interventions. Y'all need to know how we work so that we can work together, because right now I feel like medicine doesn't work with Black women, right? It's very talking at you as opposed to inviting us to speak for ourselves. So that's one pillar of LD wellness. The other is the education. I put on workshops, I facilitate discussions, conversations, workshops around womb wellness, food, social and emotional health, unlearning the strong Black woman. Can we just get into strong Black woman for a second?
I'm gonna fix my AirPods for this one, because we getting into this at the last segment. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm away.
We getting into that.
But oh my gosh, the stress,
dismantling
the
that.
Yeah, the anxiety, right?
Yes.
Black women's relationship with anxiety. Black women maybe just beginning to have a relationship with their mental health because maybe that wasn't allowed in their household, right? And understanding that these are all valid life experiences that manifest themselves into health concerns for Black women that look different than other groups, right? Because we're built different, we got it different, so we need to be healed differently, right? So my platform is all about giving Black women a chance to connect with themselves, with one another, and the larger community in a way that makes them feel seen. So that's a little bit of what I do. And, the other portion is being able to talk on platforms like this, right? And thank you so much for having such an important platform for Black women to come together and to share stories, right? With one another, with the larger audience. I think this is such an important part of this healing work.
Thank you so much. I mean, guys, I'm about to drop the mic. I can stop right now. Like, we done with the podcast, dealing with all this greatness, honey.
Right?
Woo! Man, I got goosebumps just thinking about how you guys are going to be so blessed by this conversation today. So for every guest, Lauren, and guys, forgive me, my ears are really, really small, so these AirPods do not stay in my ears. So if you see me ticket, forgive me. Y'all know we real on this platform. You know this is professional with an authentic twist, baby. Okay. So check us out. Every time we have a guest, Lauren, we always have an icebreaker question. It could be something related to the topic, or it could be something off the wall, because obviously you can't have Black and Beautiful Chit Chat Connections without having some fun. So our icebreaker question of the day is, if there was a blue sky scenario that allowed for you to completely achieve your dreams, what would it be?
Blue sky, completely achieving my dreams. No financial stress or worry for myself, the generation before me, and the generations after me. So we good. Wealth, property, investments, right? Teaching up my family how to make what we have grow and multiply, right? total. I wouldn't be work. I'd be doing the work, but I'm not working. If that makes sense, right? I'm a
It
woman
makes
of
perfect
leisure,
sense.
but I get stuff done. So
Right.
it's giving vacation once a month, because why not? Because why not?
I love your vibe.
It's an authentic podcast. We professional, but we authentic.
Yes, baby.
It's given non-invasive BBL. I'm just saying.
Listen, be real. Be real.
Things, but we're keeping it for real.
I didn't even know that was a non-invasive way to do it.
You said blue sky. You didn't say cloud. You didn't say. You said blue. So
I love it. You're right.
Y'all can do all that without doing all that. Yep.
Yes. Let's do this. Let's do this.
You know, marriage, family, eating well, growing old, being happy. You know, like a calm experience, a calm existence that is not about me in stress, me trying to support myself or my family, me worried about money, me dealing with racism, sexism, or anything else that, you know, would oppress me or my family. Just enjoying life. Like, no worries, just chilling.
I love that. And I'm going to hashtag what Lauren said, guys. Okay, because as you know, on this platform, we love to highlight the voices of people of color. And Lauren, you will achieve those things. We speak life into you here. You will be able to achieve all of that. It won't be a blue sky. It will be the manifestation of your life. So I want to speak that over you and speak that over anyone else who is touching and agreeing with us today, because you know we love our Jesus. Now, the one thing that I do want to highlight as we go into our podcast for today is that some of the things that Lauren just described are the reason why this podcast was birthed. Everyone should have an equal opportunity to that. See, some of the things that she shared that cause her oppression or stress are only in communities that don't look white. Mm-hmm. White people have that as their manifested life. Yeah. And this is something that we fight against every single day. So the reason why I say you are going to have that is because those days of oppression for our people are over. Mm-hmm. And we are not going to accept that anymore, even if we have to carve our own way. Mm-hmm. So bringing that up as a reality, even for my white folks who are a part of the Black and Beautiful family, recognize that some of the things that we want to achieve are things that you already have. And so we're just asking and begging the question, are you the only one who should have it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyway, you know, guys, I always got to bring us back to why we're here. But at the end of the day, I really appreciate you sharing that with us, Lauren. And I'm excited because I'm going on vacation with you.
Yeah.
And we're going to be outside once a month. Okay. Uh-huh. And if you can find that non-invasive BBL, I just might go with you. Okay. But guys, we're making light of it. Please love yourself the way that you are. You are beautiful. And this is why we call this our Black and Beautiful family. But I'm going to set the stage for our webisode topic today. And as you know, we always or usually have a format when we have a guest. So I'm going to share our format with you. We got 3 segments. Segment number 1, the womb. Segment number 2, let's talk food. And you know I gotta put my little New York accent on it because my girl from Brooklyn, you know what I'm saying? I'm from Queens. What's up? Okay. So the womb. Let's talk food, not talk. Okay. Talk. And then I'm in a big mood. And I feel you. Now, we don't own the rights to that song, so y'all copywriters don't be coming for me. I already put my clause in the description box below. But we're going to do it one more time for the one time. I'm in a big mood. Hey, and I feel you. I love it. That's my song. So those are our segments for the day. The womb, let's talk food, and I'm in a big mood. Let's get into it. So we're going to start off with the womb. So some background about why the topic of women's health, Black women's health and wellness is so important. You know, we'll begin with the womb, and I'll give you some statistics. We are here to do research and make this research accessible to you. So as Lauren and I bounce ideas off of each other, we will be giving you articles that you can find, and I'll put them in the description box as well, and also auditorially tell you auditorially. Yeah. Anyway, I'm making up words. I'm from the Bahamas. They do that too. So in an auditory manner, we will give you the names of these articles should you want to do any further research. But according to nationalpartnership.org, during their April 2018 article called Black Women's Maternal Health, a multifaceted approach to addressing persistent and dire health disparities issue brief, they stated that Black women in the United States experience unacceptably poor maternal health outcomes, including disproportionately high rates of death related to pregnancy or childbirth. Both societal and health system factors contribute to these high rates of poor health and outcomes, and maternal mortality for Black women, who are more likely to experience barriers to obtaining a quality care in the healthcare industry, and often face racial discrimination throughout their lives. They go on to highlight that due to racism, sexism, and other systemic barriers that have contributed to income inequality, Black women are typically paid 63 cents less for every dollar paid to white or non-Hispanic men. Median wages for Black women in the United States are $36,227 per year, which is $21,698 less than the median wages for white and non-Hispanic men. These lost wages mean Black women and their families have less money to support themselves and their families, and they have to choose between essential resources like housing, childcare, food, and healthcare. So, Lauren, just as the tip of the iceberg, do you have any thoughts or responses to these statistics? Tell us what your thoughts are.
Well, I'm angry, right? If I could be real, I'm angry that in 2023, this is still the reality for many Black women in this country and globally. It's hard to talk about Black women's wellness without having uncomfortable but needed conversations around racism and sexism and ableism and, white privilege.
You could think of.
Yeah, pretty much, right? You can really insert whatever oppression factor, literature will call them factors, but let's keep it a buck. They're forms of oppression, right? And the anger comes from the fact that we've made so much. The Black community as a whole, I feel like has made so many strides in terms of us creating communities where we're heard, where we're seen. There are Black families that are now engaging in opportunities for wealth and investment. Financial literacy is a big thing that you'll see amongst Black and brown folks. But at the end of the day, we still have some of the worst maternal health outcomes when compared to any other group. And it's something I've looked at pretty closely in my work to try to understand what's going on. But it's actually really simple. Our country is still profiting off of systems of racism and injustice. And, doing this work, it'll do two things. It'll really wake you up, right? So you can really see what's going on. And it also creates rage or sadness. I think it's James Baldwin that says to be a Negro in this country is to constantly be in a state of rage. Because the issues are quite simple. If you remove the racism and the injustice, you'll see Black women have better health outcomes. But this thing gets really deep, right? It's not just racism. I don't like you, so now you're having a bad day, or I said something mean towards you. It's mindsets. It's the way that systems are built. It's the way that college is conventionally difficult and doesn't open itself up to different types of learners. It's the way in which much needed resources are stigmatized, right? So as a Black woman who might need nutritional food support, or, temporary cash assistance, or, adult education, those resources off rip, they're stigmatized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I'm sure, if you or anyone needed help in any kind of way, it was not something to be proud about, right? Like it was something to have shame
Mm-hmm.
toward, right? Sex education, don't even let me get started. Most Black women, in my circles that I work with, when they think about their younger years and sex education, there's a gap,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or the sex education was something like just don't.
Or
Right.
what my mom said, hers, oh sorry mom, putting you out there. Hers was sweet your mouth, gonna bitter your tail. That was her sex education.
Mine was don't start none, won't be none. Okay.
Right. Don't write
Like
no checks, that booty can't cash. That really was our sex ed.
it really was. And so when you put all of these factors together, and I like to use the example of a young girl, right? Whether it be
Mm-hmm.
yourself at a younger point, a sister, a daughter, a friend, a neighbor, you've got all of these factors that are not positively contributing to your health and development. You have the stress, especially as a young Black woman, to be excellent, to overachieve. I'm an eldest daughter, and I've seen this thing on social media, the eldest daughter syndrome. And I think it can apply to any placement, but this idea that, like, a firstborn on top of being a woman creates another level of stress that we didn't ask for.
Right.
Many of us are the first in our families to do X, Y, and Z. So there's pressure there, right? Having to navigate two spaces, right? Our healthcare physicians and providers do not typically look like us, or do in very small numbers. I had an interaction in college with a nurse practitioner, and she was just giving me some basic information, but her delivery was so cold and so uh charged that I was freaking out. And
Mm-hmm.
all it would have took was maybe for her to use an analogy or just some compassion, because clearly I'm a scared teenager, and whatever the heck you telling me is whatever the heck you telling me, and I
Right.
don't know,
Right.
because this idea that everyone is getting the same type of comprehensive health education, it's not so. Explain it to me again. Am I gonna die from this? What's going on? Who? And I think that there is, I could go on and on about the different obstacles that Black women are facing, but the bottom line is it's weathering us, it's deteriorating us. And when we go then to reproduce and to just move through pregnancy, and not even just pregnancy, just maternal health in general, right? Because there are some women who are not interested, or are looking at other modes of childbearing, right? But this weathering, the racism, the built up years of stress, anxiety, the miseducation, poor nutrition, it
Mm-hmm.
has a toll on us. And for Black women to be dying from pregnancy related complications in 2023 is scary, right? Because it means that we've been in lack of, support, nutrition, safe space, and that is detrimental, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in other communities, it's not a thing. Like,
No.
it's not a thing. I'm
Mm-mm.
obviously, maternal mortality can happen to any woman, right? But the numbers in our communities are like double and triple.
We will show you. I have graphs so that you know, because I feel like people like, oh, they just talking, right?
No.
No, but we actually have statistics to share with you.
Yeah.
Lauren is not lying. It's double and triple that of any other group. It's alarming when you see the statistics, and I'm going to show you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what we do here. But I just want to let you finish. I
No,
want to let you
I'm
finish.
done. I'm done. But I'm glad you have receipts, because it's alarming. And it's not like this is statistics from like 19 something or other 18 something. It's today. It's right now. It's right now.
Right now.
There's a documentary on Hulu, and I always forget the name of it. Is it Aftershock?
I don't know because I
I
don't
think
have
I'm
Hulu.
saying
Oh,
that the
sorry.
right way. I'll send it to you afterwards. But
Okay.
it's a documentary of all of the fathers and partners of Black women that have died from pregnancy related complications, and to just go through their stories and follow their lives. And these are young men and partners that have just taken up doing this research. And it's scary, right? Especially because a lot of these women have said something to their providers. I don't feel well, and we didn't even get into that, but just like the silencing of the Black woman's voice, especially when it comes to her own body, right? Racism, it'll silence you. Sexism silences you, sexual abuse, it silences you. Fear silences you, right? A lot of these factors, these social determinants of health is what we call them, the conditions in which we live, work, play, grow. For Black women, a lot of them are detrimental, and this is the statistics I think are interesting because it's across education. So there at one point was this idea that the less education you have, the poorer your health outcomes. But when it comes to maternal mortality in particular, Black women with PhDs still have worse health outcomes than white women with no college degree, right? So what was once a leveraging factor for good health is being counteracted by the other determinants that we experience, which means that the system really got us up. Like, hello?
Oh, girl.
So when you see, like, we don't exactly know why this is happening. No, y'all don't want to talk about it. Y'all don't want to confront it because y'all make money from this at the end of the day. But,
Well, I'm going to get into a little something. We're going to talk about those health disparities that Lauren just mentioned. And then we're going to go into some of the statistics and actually visualize them. And then I want us to talk about Serena because, based on that last statistic that you showed about education being the means of access to better healthcare, we can say money would do the same thing. And Serena almost lost Olympia.
Yeah.
Serena wasn't listening. Serena is an advocate of Black maternal health disparities because she herself, the greatest female tennis player of all time, they didn't care about her feelings or listen. They silenced her in that moment when she was having her child. But before we go there, some of the background about Black maternal health disparities are the following. Too many Black women are dying in pregnancy and childbirth. Black women in the United States are more likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth than women in any other race group. All right. Black women are 3 to 4 more times likely to experience a pregnancy-related death than white women. And they're more likely to experience preventable maternal death compared to white women, meaning that they're once again silenced and no one is listening to how they're articulating what's happening in their body. And much like Lauren just told us, Black women's heightened risk of pregnancy-related death spans income and educational levels, which is staggering, right? In addition to that, Black women experience more maternal health complications than white women, and Black women are more likely to experience complications throughout the course of their pregnancy. And that would include 3 times more likely to have fibroids or display signs of preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure, and to experience that physical weathering that Lauren just used. That is actually a term that they are using to describe what it looks like where Black women age faster than white women due to exposure to chronic stress linked to socioeconomic disadvantage and discrimination over the life course. Now, listen, I ain't about to sit here and talk about no white lady, but Black still don't crack, regardless of what they just said.
Because it crossed my mind, and I'm glad you brought it up. And
I'm about to put that out there. Hold on, I like that statistic.
But you know what? And I think this is something I grew up with too, is to never look like what you're going through. And I think on a physiological level, many of us do not look like what we're going through. And that goes into this idea that these physicians, and it's a racist idea that you can take the pain because you look all right, right? And it's almost as if, to get all symbolic here, like our beauty and our strength and our resilience, because they adore it so much, they don't consider that internally we are just as much at risk, if not even more. But because I don't want to say that we carry pain well, but like we carry ourselves well. And a lot of times I think if we aged externally the way we do internally from these stressors, it might be a different ball game. But once you turn 25, you're 25 for about a good 40 years. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Yeah, like
That's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be 25 forever, y'all. But
yeah.
you're 100% correct, which brings us to Black serving hospitals provide lower quality maternal care. This is another piece about that lack of access. The systemic injustices that the Black community faces are by design, guys. These are fill out the census. Let me just give you an example of how this is designed. You fill out the census, and based on the census, they provide or allocate resources to your community based on per head, right? Like per citizen that lives there. Now, they have stigmatized the census and have made it seem like, oh, the census just wants to get in your business. So a lot of people in our communities, and I know this because I worked for the census in 2010, a lot of people in our communities, we literally had to convince them with this knowledge to fill out the census. So knowing this and stigmatizing it, what it does is it allows more resources to be allocated to, let's say, communities who are white because they understand what the census is for versus communities that are Black serving. And so not even that, Black serving hospitals also means that it could be a white owned hospital, but because they're serving Black folks, they will not access the resources that are needed in order to provide a higher quality of care, both maternal and physical and mental and physiological and any type of health care in that community. That is then attributed to redlining and red zoning, which means that they took these large maps and they drew red lines around them and they said, we will literally squeeze resources out of these communities to ensure that they never get properly resourced in order to take those resources that we've squeezed and put them into white affluent communities. And you do that through gerrymandering, you do that through legislation, you do that through various different ways of racism and oppression. Guys, if you don't believe me, go look it up yourself. It's literally a Google search. Google search redlining. Google search red zoning. And you will find out for yourself. That was a common practice in the early 1900s in this country. And quite frankly, I live in a neighborhood that you can actually see the symptoms of redlining and red zoning with your naked eye. Now, I just want to give you some of that because these Black serving hospitals say that 75% of Black women give birth at hospitals that serve predominantly Black populations. And this goes back to what Lauren was saying. I want to go see somebody who looks like me, but then I go see someone that looks like me and it's in an underserved community. So I'm not even getting the treatment that I deserve because that community has been squeezed of their resources. Once again, by design. And lastly, many Black women have a difficult time accessing the reproductive health care that meets their needs. So access to reproductive health care, which helps women plan their families and improves health outcomes for women and children, Black women experience higher rates of unintended pregnancies than other racial groups as a symptom of not having the opportunity to access that type of reproductive health care. And much of that is a stem from what sweet your mouth gonna do to your tail. Don't write that check, that butt can't cash. And all the other little acronyms and antonyms and synonyms that our moms and grandmoms gave us. Lastly, Black women lack access to quality contraceptive care and counseling. So, for example, in a recent analysis of a California women-enrolled Medicaid, Black women were less likely than white or Latina men to receive postpartum contraception. And when they did receive it, they were less likely to receive a highly effective method. So now, I'm going to get into this real quick because my sister works for HRA. Ooh, sorry. I didn't mean to put you out there, but y'all know who my sister is. You don't know which sister because I'm one of 12. So nevertheless, right? Right? I'm going to mix y'all up. She works for HRA and most of her clients are white. I've also dug a little bit deeper and I've done some research on Medicaid and Medicare. And most Americans who have access and are benefiting off of the Medicaid and Medicare system are white, over 60%.
That's right.
So let's put that out there. It ain't black folks. They ain't the ones on welfare.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put that in, or we're not the only ones accessing government benefits. So
we're not the majority of folks accessing government benefits.
Sorry. Thank you very much for changing that for me, giving me the proper terminology for that. We're not the majority. That's the first thing. The second thing is, not only are our healthcare system squeezing our communities of their resources, or any system that we engage for that matter, squeezing our communities for resources, now we have that extra layer that Lauren talked about in the beginning. Now we have embedded practices that do not serve our people.
Mm-hmm.
And this stems back to academics, which is why she brought up higher education and the learning process of what it means to be a healthcare professional.
Mm-hmm.
The curriculum is rooted in oppression and racism and does not consider the differences in culture, body, mind, soul, spirit of even people of color such as ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond. And once again, there goes my headphone. I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond, Lauren, but I get really hyped because this is my jam.
Yeah.
Like these are not lies. So anyone who would say, oh, this is just not true, they're just making this up. No, these are studies. These are theoretical practices that have been passed down by other academics so that we can take a more in-depth and comprehensive look at what it looks like for our communities and for today in particular, Black women and our health and wellness. So anyways, Lauren, I'll give you some time to talk because,
Girl, it's, again, rage. Like, it's so frustrating, and everything you've pointed to, and I thank you for really laying out that framework, that roadmap of really understanding where these health disparities come from. You walked us through, our social determinants, our living conditions, our communities, the redlining, the gerrymandering. It made me think of gentrification, which is an extension, I feel, of these same practices, because now resources are coming into underserved communities. However, they are not designed for us. Like, I grew up in Crown Heights my whole life, and our supermarket that's been there about 20-25 years, the main, supermarket, was torn down. I want to say going on 2 years ago. And, it created a food desert. But for the influx of folks that are moving in from, middle America or wherever, they're rooming up, they're enjoying the city bikes. And listen, this is no shade, right? Because there are people that look just like us that are able to enjoy the resources that are coming to the community, as they should, period. But there are many folks, older folks, immigrant families, folks that just don't have access or opportunity for these new resources. They're not enjoying them, right? So now the older folks, are getting groceries from 2 supermarkets over, but that's not walking accessible for them, right? But again, the folks that are moving in, they're able to use food delivery services, or they're driving to go get their own foods. They're not as impacted by the food desert or the obstacle that it created than the communities that were originally living there. And, that's a small example of how these obstacles that are rooted in oppressive behaviors, right? The oppression is the fact that resources are coming in and they're not accessible or equitable to everyone who was already living there. So here I was here for 30 and 40 years, right? But now my community around me no longer reflects my day-to-day living, right? My community is no longer of service to me, but I was here first, and I was here when no one wanted to live here, right? Because if we think about gentrification, it's waves of people moving in and out, right? Most Black and brown families, at least in New York and definitely in New York City, moved into neighborhoods when white folks were leaving, right? So the neighborhoods were not left in pristine condition, right? The idea of the ghettos, right, were groups of communities. Some, were non-Black and brown, some were Black and brown, but at least in our communities, the idea was putting us all in one place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of again, you talked about that redlining. It was a way to create segregation in communities. So now gentrification is coming in, bringing in folks to said community that we've now inhabited, we've grown it, we've made it our own, and now we're being plucked out one by one. Or it's very hard to live here, like, and when we think about maternal mortality in particular, how can I have a healthy, happy pregnancy when I'm stressed out about where I live, how much money I make, what I gonna eat?
Right? What I gonna eat? Yes. You from Crown Heights, say.
Sorry, it's coming out.
Let it out, girl.
It's
Don't
just,
let mine out too. Pop, pop, pop.
listen, but that's what I mean when I say that Black women's health is a unique experience, right? Because some of our practices, if we being real and authentic, were not healthy or positive toward. It's one of those things where we have to be accountable for the ways in which we are also continuing to perpetuate that oppression amongst each other and ourselves, because some of our mindsets and beliefs, I feel they were built in as a defense mechanism. But so in 2023, still telling our children, don't start one, won't be one, that doesn't work, right? Nope. I think it had a time and a place when there was not literally access to information, but like you mentioned, it's a quick Google search. Yep. Right there, the information is available for us to continue to better ourselves. Because I've had a few conversations with folks that are like, health is your choice, right? Like specifically around stuff like weight, right? So if you're overweight, obese, whatever the case may be, a lot of people feel like that is your choice and you are actively contributing to that, and it's your job, not anyone's job around you, not your family, not the government, not your workforce. No one else's job is to get you healthy if that's how you're choosing to live. And I think that argument is interesting, and I guess we could put it to maternal mortality as well. Of course, there is an individual responsibility to myself to keep myself healthy, happy, and well. But if my community, if the placement in where I live those things are not as easily accessible, if I can't get to the produce because it's expensive and McDonald's is right up the road, I'm going
they love
to
their
McDonald's.
McChicken, costs $1. Yeah, and it's more affordable.
Full understanding that that's not the best for me, but let's be for real. If the produce is expensive and far away, and I don't see myself in that community, right? Maybe when I go to the store, I don't see anybody that looks like me. Maybe I feel like I'm being followed when I'm there, or I'm just not received very well. I'm not going to want to go. Right. Same thing with my provider. If my provider doesn't make me feel good, if it's very expensive, if healthcare is complicated, and every time I do go, I don't feel welcomed, I'm going to stay home, or I'm going to take to myself to self-medicate or self-heal, or maybe, go. And I advocate for holistic healing, but I think there's a fine line where Western medicine and holistic healing, they should at least be in conversation with each other. I was going to say agree, but I don't think that's the right way. But at least
I like in conversation,
because we might have to do a little bit of give and take to find, a balance. But again, all of the things that you mentioned, the oppression, the racism, the ways in which systemically they've had it out for us. It's strategic. It's
so
very
strategic. Strategic.
But we get to be a little bit smarter than that. We get to be strategic right back, right?
Exactly. So let me get into this piece with you guys, because we have a little bit left for this segment, and then we have 2 segments to go. And you guys know we try to keep you under the hour. So let's get back into the Black women dying in pregnancy and childbirth. So I want to give you guys, like I said, I was going to give you some visuals because you guys need to see this. Forgive me if the picture's a little blurry, but you can see. Okay, so we got U.S. mortality rates, and these are dated back to 2019. Black women in the United States are more likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth than any other racial group. And here are some stats. So all people at 20%. We ain't even going to say black, white, and different. We're just going to look at all people, and then we're going to look at black. You see, when Lauren said we were double the rate, she's not lying. I'm going to go to the next one. This is from 2016 to 2018 per 100,000 votes. And once again, we are at double that of the rest of the communities. Here we go again. This is New York City. Shout out to everybody from New York. I figured we should do it because we both from New York.
Yeah.
And check this out. We're almost 3 times more likely per 100,000 live births. We are almost 3 times more likely in New York City than any other racial group. And lastly, in the U.S., Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to die during pregnancy and childbirth than white women. I just wanted to drive that home because we already told you that. We just came full circle. Mm-hmm. This is not a lie. This is serious. And I'm just going to go back and I'm going to give you guys an opportunity just to look at these statistics again and just see that these graphs are not lying to you. These are per 100,000 births. These are millions of children dying in Black wombs. Now, I want to get back into our conversation, Lauren. And the reason why I want us to get back into our conversation is because I definitely want to get us to let's talk food. But I also want to touch on pain tolerance in Black persons. We brought this up, and I know you guys are like, some of you might be aware, some of you might not. But there has been a study, multiple studies done, and I'm going to give you a little background as to why they don't believe that Black persons can feel pain. So in the National Library of Medicine, there was an article called Racial Bias in Pain Assessment and Treatment Recommendations and False Beliefs About Biological Differences Between Blacks and Whites. And this was written by Hoffman, Traualter, Axt, and Oliver in 2016. And I quote, "Beliefs that Blacks and whites are fundamentally and biologically different have been prevalent in various forms for centuries. In the United States, these beliefs were championed by scientists, physicians, and slave owners alike to justify slavery and its inhumane treatment of Black men and women in medical research. In the 19th century, prominent physicians sought to establish the physical peculiarities. I usually could speak, but today I don't know. Physical peculiarities of Blacks that could serve to distinguish them from the white man. Now, as you can see, I'm putting quotations because that is what the literature is saying. Such peculiarities included thicker skulls, less sensitive nervous systems, and diseases inherent in dark skin. And I'm going to give you the founder of this belief. Dr. Samuel Cartwright, for instance, wrote that Blacks bore a Negro disease, making them insensible to pain when subjected to punishment. I'm going to say that again. Dr. Samuel Cartwright, for instance, wrote that Blacks bore a Negro disease, making them insensible to pain when subjected to punishment. Other physicians believed that Blacks could tolerate surgical operations with little, if any, pain at all. Well into the 20th century, researchers continued to experiment on Black people based in part on the assumption that Black bodies were more resistant to pain and injury. The military covertly tested mustard gas and other chemicals on Black soldiers during World War II. And the U.S. Public Health Service, in collaboration with Tuskegee Institute, studied the progression of untreated syphilis in Black men from 1932 to 1972. Guys, that's in our mamas, our sisters, our grandparents' lifetime. This is today. This is not yesterday. This is today. Mm-hmm. All of our medical research currently is rooted in this racist ideology that Black people have a Negro disease that makes them insensible to pain when subjected to punishment. And I'd like to iterate that this was used by scientists, physicians, and slave owners alike to justify slavery and the inhumane treatment of Black men and women in medical research and beyond. Now, what are your conclusions, Lauren? How do you address these disparities in your work? And once you respond, we will move into segment 2.
Still feeling that rage. But you know, how I address this in my work, I think this area of wellness is newer. I think there's always been a look at health. But this idea of wellness is, I would say, more about one's emotional health and well-being, right? We're not just looking at, you know, physical or mental. We're looping in, you know, most people know it as the mind, body, soul, right? Kind of thing. And I think wellness is more of that soul piece. So in my work, I really try to create spaces where Black women feel safe, because what you've just described is a racist foundation of the treatment of Black people, but especially women, right? So, and a part of dismantling that is to, one, recognize it, right? And two, to counter it through creating spaces that are authentic and safe. Because most of us go through our day in some, you know, mode of protection or guarding ourselves. And, you know, we're seeing a lot of stuff. This is a whole nother episode, but the soft life movement, right? Which, you know, which I really enjoy.
I'm in my femininity.
Yes. You know, I'm in my feminine energy. And I definitely, I agree to some extent. But I think the piece around being soft and vulnerable and expressing yourself is a complete, you know, healing mechanism for what you've just described. Like, research and racism and medicine says that I am tough and strong. The world sees me as angry, right? That's why I keep saying that I'm angry, because y'all expect that, for real, you know. But there's something about owning it for myself and doing something with my anger, being in conversation about my anger, you know, reading up on these things so that I'm knowledgeable and well versed, right? Like, having workshops and these kinds of conversations to give accurate knowledge of what's going on. I'm channeling my anger and doing something with it, you know.
Message.
But the work is about, for me, understanding, being knowledgeable, and creating a space for Black women to feel love, to put this shit somewhere, for real. Because it's too much to just carry this. Like, when I think about, like, this kind of stuff, make me question my job every day. Like, again, racism again. But it's like you said, it's today. What we're experiencing is today. Like, I'm not sure how long ago, you know, I'm assuming this is, well, you know, 1900s and beforehand, but we see it right now. Like, I've spoken to residents that have told me that they did not have much public health training. That's scary. You are learning, you are in doctor school, treating up people, poking them up and such, and you don't have a general, you know, diversity or cultural training, or it's something, you know, you breeze through it, right? It's not something that is heavy into the curriculum as it should be. So these doctors are learning pretty much the same foundation of Samuel and them, you know. We have task force now, and it's, you know, it's getting real cute. We got Jedi and DEI, DEIB, ABCD, like, you know, we got these little acronyms. That's for real. Come on, it be acronyms. The acronym gang is for real. Jedi, Debai, like, I know you.
She lied. No, but you ain't lying. That's why I was just like, oh my gosh, it's really bad. It's really bad.
It's bad. But main takeaway is to do this work that centers Black women's safety, because when you feel safe, you can think, you can make decisions not from a place of scarcity. You can, a lot of that pain tolerance. I was reading something that said that a lot of us don't even have language to describe our pain, so that when we go to the doctor and we're actually trying to describe, they don't give you much language, right? A good doctor will give you types of pain. Is it stinging? Is it stabbing? Is it dull? They'll just ask you, what are you feeling? Tell me. But if I don't have language, that's inequity right there. You're asking me to do something that I don't have language or tools to do. So then you are making a choice for me because you haven't expressed. But maybe you're not saying it in a way that I understand or that I can connect to. Maybe I understand.
I don't mean to cut you off. I don't mean to cut you off. I have to say this. Guys, if you have not engaged in DEI terminology, words have meaning, which is one of my workshops. This is why I teach us the language, the theory, the practice, the frameworks behind this stuff. So these conversations are not happening around you. Them suckers is happening with you. Mm-hmm. So okay. All right, I'm gonna let you finish, and then we gonna go into wellness. Okay.
I'm so glad you brought up that language piece, because you can't do this work without language. Yeah,
you cannot. We need a means to be able to articulate ourselves, and this is why on Black and Beautiful Chit Chat Connections we're bringing this info to you. Yeah. Okay, and I'm gonna put all the links to the resources that Lauren and I talked about today in the description box below. Remember, smash that like, smash that subscribe button so that we can get through the algorithm and more people could learn about us, and share, do all that. So anyway, that ends our segment for the womb, because it took us an hour just to get through that. We on our way into Let's Talk Food. And I'm going to move a little quick through this because I know that Lauren, you probably have so many other people, on your line wanting to talk to you. So I want to make sure we get through this as quickly as possible. So enter into our next segment. Let's talk food. La comida. We about to talk food. Now, I'm going to briefly discuss feedingamerica.org. They have an article called Hunger Hits Black Communities Harder. And this is what they say in this article. The Black community consistently faces hunger at higher rates than whites do due to social, economic, and environmental changes. In 2021, 2 years ago, nearly 20% of Black families experienced food insecurity, more than 3 times the rate of white households. Now, we're not going to sit here and be like, oh, we're comparing to white people. But what we're trying to illustrate is that in America right now, whiteness is the standard. And so the standard, right, being whiteness, we're showing that nearly 3 times that standard of Black families suffered from food insecurity and food deserts across this country. Now, when you teach eating for wellness, Lauren, how do you address this particular disparity?
That's a great question. So it's one of those things, and we talked about this a bit earlier with food deserts and gentrifications and things like that, understanding that the Black diet is very much a byproduct of the racism and the oppression that we've been talking about this entire segment. And, probably just like I do, that Black folks in particular, we have a beautiful and passionate relationship with our food, because in a lot of ways, our food is our story, or our food is a segment of our story. A lot of dishes, across the diaspora and the Caribbean and here on the mainland, what have you, most of them are connected to a time period, right? And some of them, there's all kind of names for it, but a lot of it was poor people food, or what do we call them? Struggle meals. But what we did is take limited resources and create cuisines and delicacies that were really a product of that time, but now they've become a part of our history. So we've brought them into new times, right? And I think it's understanding there's a nutritionist, I think her handle is the Black Nutritionist, that talks about decolonizing the plate, right? This idea that I can't have my rice, or I can't have, my plantain or whatnot, that I have to have kale. And she's like, no. And
I ain't doing none of that.
I'm not doing it.
Give me my plantain and my oxtail. I need that. And my macaroni and my peas and rice.
That's how I know you rich, because oxtail is expensive, girl. So I could come have.
You gotta go to the butcher.
But like, understanding that our relationship with our food is prideful and it's passionate, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think Black food, comfort food, it has a stigma around it that it's bad for you. And it's like, we can have our same dishes with different ingredients or prepared in a different way. We can still have our flavor. We can, because a lot of our flavor, I think it's sentimental. It's our pride. It's our story. It's what makes us different from the standard. It's
like when you be like, how you season that?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't got no measurement. I stop when the ancestors tell me.
When it turn red,
I stop when the ancestors say stop.
When they say stop, you stop.
Right. Ain't no measurement.
And I think a lot of modern public health nutrition, again, looking at the standard, it's very much based on portion size and measurements and, controlling intake, which I think is, and I say this, as someone who loves my food seasoned by the ancestors, we have to have conversation between Western medicine, the parts of it that is rooted in health, not the racism, because there's some parts of it that are standard. We shouldn't be over consuming sugar, salts, and fats, period, right? Yeah. No group should. Our group just tends to love those things, and we make it work because our food is good. But I don't have to let go of my culture and my tradition and my flavor and my recipes, in order to be health conscious. There's a lot of movements right now, Black folks that are going vegan or just more plant-based, and they're still bringing the recipes. They're just doing it in a different way. And I think that's the best, to me, that is the best way to address this. Keep your culture, keep your values, but also use ingredients that are life-sustaining. Some people say don't do meat. I'm not there yet. But I definitely agree with, like,
I told you I like my oxtail. I be like, all in between the bone, like,
listen.
Don't care. At the end of the day, I need a healthy balance. And to be honest with you, I agree with everything that you're saying, Lauren. And I also want to add this piece that, we talked about redlining and red zoning, and how when you go to the Black neighborhood, there's always a liquor store, there's always a corner store, and there's always a McDonald's, right? So, when you go to the corner store, have you ever noticed that every single drink that's in there is full of copious amounts of sugar? Yeah. I can't even go to the corner store and actually get like a nice little iced tea. Sometimes you just want something to wet your whistle. You don't want like, I don't think I should have used that phrase, but something just to like,
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want water. You want like something to drink. I can't even get an unsweetened iced tea without fake sugar in it. And that's only in our neighborhoods. Because if I go meet my friends, or if I go to the white neighborhood, I don't see that. I have copious amounts of options. I got kombucha and all these other things that I could try.
Yeah.
And different green drinks and green goddess juice and all this stuff. I got all these things. But if I go to our communities, the corner store don't have those things. McDonald's got calories out the wazoo. We don't even know what they be putting in them. Like you said, the supermarkets get taken out of our communities. Now we have to commute. So just being more aware of where you are and what you have access to, that now you have the responsibility for your own wellness, right? Your eating wellness. You have to have the responsibility for that. You have to say, when I go to the supermarket, if I do get to the supermarket, I'm going to buy for the month and this is what I'm going to get.
Right.
And I'm going to get all things that are healthy and I can make my meals and so on and so forth. And then you're going to check out the Black diet, the Black nutritionist, so she can help you decolonize your plate. Because I don't know about y'all. If you give me collard greens, I'm going to eat collard greens over kale. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat that. So I want to go into a holistic lifestyle. So I know that you mentioned that in some of your work in LD Wellness, you talk about having this holistic lifestyle. So firstday.com defines holistic living, and it says it generally refers to a way of life that incorporates that mind, body, and soul that you mentioned. So they said some of the benefits include it helps to manage stress, you live a healthy life, you improve your mood, you improve your cognitive function, and cognitive function is how you think and how you act from your thought process. You feel more connected, you have good self-esteem, you create a daily routine, you start small, you be consistent, and the last thing is you start now. Okay? So I want you guys to recognize that. Like, start now. Start now trying to have that mind, body, and soul all together, making those good decisions, taking that advice from Lauren. Now, Lauren, I want you to respond to this piece. Ways to lead a holistic lifestyle. How does this affect the Black community in particular? So I'm going to read these ways to lead a holistic lifestyle, and then perhaps you could take one or two and tell us how that affects the Black community specifically. Now, ways to lead a holistic lifestyle, my Black and beautiful family. First, you have to discover your purpose and passion for living. What is your reason for living? You live to your present moment. Are you content with what's around you? Are you content with your resources? You eat healthy foods. What do those healthy foods look like to you? You eat clean. What does clean eating look like? You focus more on your physical health. You be well rested. You practice mindfulness. Mindfulness meaning like you have a time to reflect. You have a morning routine. You could get a life coach or a leadership coach like Alex Dumas. You find your community. So much like Lauren and myself, creating that community and space for that safety. You discover your spiritual well-being. You practice gratitude, and you have a minimalistic approach. You don't have to have a whole bunch of things. You just have to have what you need. So talk to us. Maybe you could pluck out 2 or 3 out of that list and tell us, do you see any barriers to this type of living for our community? And how does that affect us in particular?
So in terms of barriers, the one that stuck out to me the most for our community is the minimalist lifestyle, because, and not to say that Blackness is synonymous with struggle or poverty, because it absolutely isn't. But I think in a lot of ways, many of us can connect our racial community and identity with lack. And I'll just use the word lack, because it might not have been money, it might have been access, time, what have you, but just lack in general, and how lack in Blackness can create fear and anxiety, so that when we start to have, the first thing we do is wild out and buy stuff. Was it Kanye that was like, for real?
Oh, wild out. Yo, shout out to the locks, yo.
For real, like, it was the Kanye song where it's something, and then I wilded out, and then I bought a chain, right? This idea.
I mean, there's too many of those songs, Lauren. Oh, my.
Too many. But I think what it really is that I think in the Black community in general, we put a lot of value in status symbols. And when you are not used to status, period, that at least in the very beginning, and some people never grow out of it, to know I got it, I got to have stuff around me that reflects back to me that I have it, right? And that creates stress within itself. But the minimalist lifestyle, from what I understand, is about having what you need and enjoying that. And it's not about having less. And I think for most Black people, the idea of having less is scary, because it's either a lived experience or it's a fear that I'm going to get there. So because of all these obstacles that we've talked about all day long, it can create this paranoia around not having enough. Yeah. So this idea of living with just a little bit can sound very like, I didn't go through all that to just not have. I got to have it all, and I do this in my own life very often, just reflect on, when I'm cleaning up or whatever, I got my Saturday morning on, my Gladys Knight, bonnet on, sweet.
Real Black girl, together, right? Black girl.
Because that Black girl cleaning, it's a thing.
Yes, it is
but
a
I'm
thing,
like,
guys.
when did I get all this stuff? Or what is this clutter? And I have to then reflect on, sometimes I'm just purchasing. I'm
Right.
just getting, I'm just amassing stuff. And I guess
Mhm.
in the moment it feels really good. But in this moment where I'm trying to clean and organize and have space, now I just got a bunch of stuff. And I think that's a physical thing, but it's a symbolic thing. We amass so much stuff, material possessions, people around us, ideologies. Like we take in so much so that it feels like we have. We're trying to fill our life up. And that second point was finding your purpose, because when you know your purpose, I believe that you don't need the extras, the pleasantries, right? Because you're clear in what you came here to do, or your next steps, right? We talk about Jesus on this platform. So, for those of us that believe, or whoever you connect with, your higher power, your grounding, your God, whatever, when you are in divine connection and conversation, with your source, you don't need so many voices and so many things, so many activities. I'm in all these groups, I do all this stuff, I got all this money, but you don't need it when you're clear.
Sounds
But that's
tiring.
not to be confused with you don't deserve it.
Right.
You should be able to have it all, right?
Mhm,
Too
mhm.
much in our community tells us that we shouldn't, right? Some of us have fear around having, but it's a balance. I'm enjoying this thing because I deserve it and I'm worthy of it, but I'm not a slave to it,
Right.
right? I if I didn't have these things, I would still be loved and worthy and deserving. But I get to enjoy this because it's my birthright to be on this earth and have pleasure and have fun and dance in my little
All
femininity.
right, come
Yeah.
through Ecclesiastes. Okay,
Yeah.
Ecclesiastes tells us Solomon was like, "It's your birthright, but it's all vanity. All of it is vanity." But it made me think about Paul, and he said, "I learned how to abound, and I learned how to obey. So I know to be with a lot, and I know how to be content with a little." So
Yes.
just knowing how to balance that, and I'm gonna give y'all a message right now because we got to be the mailman, like don't be a menace to society while drinking your juice in the hood. Guys, I'm a DEI practitioner. I probably tell you this every single time, but you as a black consumer was by design. People study you for a living. Corporations study you for a living. And that's why you think consuming things is a symbol of status and stature. And if you guys just only recognize that 10 chains around your neck is literally the equivalent of you being in bondage to the consumer, to you being in bondage to the black consumerism. That is an actual study. 10 watches around your wrist at one time, you are in shackles to consumerism. Wake up. These rappers, they know exactly what they're doing. I don't mean to Dick Gregory, y'all, but this is all by design. And this is why on this platform, we're going to wake y'all up, shake y'all up a little bit, have some cognitive dissonance. It's okay to reject some of that. But when you sit back and you reflect and you see, now you can have power over it so that it doesn't take power over you. Thank you so much, Lauren, for that. Now we about to get into segment 3. I'm in a big mood. I feel you.
Hey.
I never sing the words. I don't know what he really saying. All I know is I'm in a big mood. And I feel you. I like that song. Now I really want you guys to watch. Nah, okay. Now hear this. Hear me good. I'm in a big mood. This section or segment, excuse me, is about the strong black woman. Oh, we about to get into it, y'all.
Yeah.
If y'all waited this whole entire broadcast for this moment, this is your moment. We about to get into the strong black woman. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
All right, I'm about to share my screen with y'all. We about to get into this. Okay, so I got two parts that I want us to watch. Now, this particular video was made by AJ Plus, and it was done so nicely. And they talk about the negative effects of the strong black woman stereotype. Yes, guys, this is a stereotype. This is actually not real, but some of us black women have definitely acquiesced to this and have kind of like what Lauren said, we've adopted this mindset and we carry this with us, and I don't know why. So we're gonna watch a clip. I have 2 different parts of the clip that I want you to watch, and then Lauren's gonna respond to it for us, and her and I are just gonna vibe and have a conversation, and then we'll close out today for y'all. But here we go.
of the Black superwoman.
Can you hear it?
One is a perceived obligation to present an image of strength. The second is a perceived obligation to suppress emotions. The third is resistance to vulnerability or dependence on help from others. The fourth is a motivation to succeed despite limited resources. And the fifth is prioritization of caregiving or providing care to others, in contrast to balancing that with self-care.
Giscombe says these factors are very likely impacting Black women's health in ways that aren't really being considered or widely researched. She added that the superwoman schema can affect things like sleeping habits, relationships, and even diet. The Center for Disease Control says more than half.
Okay, so Lauren, I just want to give you an opportunity to kind of talk to us a little bit about those 5 factors that she mentioned. I've heard you mention them throughout today as, I think you called them determinants of health, right? As to why Black women might be holding on to what they call the Black woman schema, the superwoman schema. So talk to us about how you've perceived this piece, this clip.
So I love looking at strong Black womanhood from a lens of wellness. And one of the workshops I teach that's just labeled Mood looks specifically at this schema, because I feel like this is a mental coping mechanism, and I'm really glad that you put this segment at the end, because now that we've talked about this roadmap, we looked at the determinants, we understand the racism, the oppression, where it comes from. This is the coping mechanism that the Black female psyche has created, and coping mechanisms are to do just that. They're to cope. They're really designed for you to protect yourself. Like, the body is built to protect itself, physically, mentally, or otherwise. So this perceived strength is about moving through situations. It's about navigating through trauma. It's about getting us from point A to point B. And I look at the women in my family and how I've always admired how strong they are and how they're able to overcome really difficult situations, how they're able to take care of children and partners, family members, keep things going, go to work, be a model there, have it together and be fly, like, create a sense of hope or morale, cook, clean, like, just, do all of the things that humans should do, but with another layer of having to be a strong Black woman. And I think that, like many things in our community, there was a time and place for strength in this way, right? Because from what we've talked about, we would not have survived if we didn't develop, that quote unquote thicker skin through all the stuff we've talked about: racism, sexism, oppression, not being listened to by our care providers, the stress of finances, being breadwinners, limited sexual health and wellness, right? We didn't even get into, sexuality, gender expression. Growing up, exploring yourself maybe was not an option. So the strength was really to get us through all of that. But I think it's understanding, like with many things, we get to create ways of being that allow us to be vulnerable. And I'm going back to that idea of a safe space. I think it's not about demonizing the strong Black woman. It's about understanding the role of that function, and also understanding that the rest of the world, the standard that we talked about, they see us like that. But that does not mean that's who we are. Right?
Preach. Message.
Yeah, for real. They see us as angry and ghetto and what's the word they love? Sassy.
Sassy? What the heck? If somebody ever called me sassy, I'd be like, what? Are you my mom?
Like, girl. Girl. But understanding that I don't think it's about eliminating a coping mechanism, right? It's more about understanding it and acknowledging that it exists and that it's real, and that in some instances the strength is what got us through, but also not having to live in this perpetual state of needing to show up for other people. Like, I know for me, mine shows my strong Black woman shows up when I have difficulty setting boundaries because I'm so used to getting things done, multitasking, making everybody happy, so when I actually need something, because it's not always, it's always rough and tough. Sometimes it's small things, just telling somebody, no, I can't do that right now. I used to think that was a sign of weakness because I should be able to do it because I can do it, so I'm gonna do it. But guess what? I don't want to do it. This isn't a good time for me. I trust that I can say no and that it be okay. Like, to me, those are the everyday ways in which strong Black woman shows up. And to be honest, there are some women that are navigating life in a way that they need that resilience. And I respect that. I do. I just think we need to create better systems so that women don't have to live I don't think strong Black womanhood should be a state of being. I think when it kicks in, it's like adrenaline. It's supposed to be for a purpose, and then it's supposed to end, right? I should not be living my life as a strong Black woman. I might need to tap into my strength to get through this day because y'all are trying me, and I'm not the one, right? But I also want to come home to my
as per my email,
okay? But not because that'll seep into my emotions. That'll seep into my self-perception. If I'm always strong, what happens when someone is kind and they show me love or attention? Now I don't know what to do with it because I'm so used to being like this. It's not a state of being. It is a
superpower.
Yeah, it's a superpower that should not be overused.
Exactly. And you know what else too? I mean, I'm kind of always coming for the Black community sometimes, but this whole culture thing, this Black culture thing that we hold on to so harshly, I'm telling you guys, as a DEI practitioner with the knowledge of system structures, policies, and procedures, this was told and dictated to you as what you are supposed to consume and how you're supposed to see yourself, or the lens you're supposed to see yourself through. So this angry Black woman trope and this strong Black woman stereotype, or this schema, was something that was given and dictated to you because of the strength that you had, because of the resilience that you had. And it was meant to try to destroy you, your communities, and your families. So the reason why Lauren and I are so adamant about changing this narrative is because it should be used as a superpower. Black women are strong. Black women are resilient. Black women can make it happen. Black women give to their communities. Black women can wear 10 different hats and not fold under pressure. But like Lauren said, it is not a state of being, and it's not something that you should walk around with as if it is a badge of honor. It was something that was dictated to you by white supremacy to ensure that you adopted its ideologies and its lens of you. It really was. And once again, if you're having cognitive dissonance, that is okay. Shoot me an email. We can set up a time to talk and you can talk through it with me, because at this point it's done. We really need to change the narrative of our people, and we need to ensure that our people recognize and understand that a lot of the things that we're adopting as culture, that stuff is rooted and riddled with white supremacy and the lens of whiteness and how that reflects on people of color in this country. It's not actually real. It's fake. But nevertheless, I got another clip for you. I'll be going off a little bit, but that's because I'm very passionate about this stuff.
As you should be.
I really believe, I'm going to say this real quick and then I'm going to move into the next piece. Working as a DEI practitioner, oftentimes I hear, where do we get qualified people of color to do this job? And I'm sorry that I'm antagonizing what I think white people might sound like or what they sound like to me, because it's like Charlie Brown to my ears. But I oftentimes hear, I'm not going to be mean. I'm going to be nice. Okay. I oftentimes hear, well, where do we find qualified Black people to do this job? I've had 10 on my show already. And they're all excellent and can articulate themselves and know their work, and they can provide you with a perspective that is elite. This these are the narratives that are out there about us. And I really want to change. I'm in the process of like, we're going to dismantle all of that. Interrupt, disrupt, dismantle. That's that on that. Okay. So nevertheless, let me get into this last part. I'm going to share my screen again so that Lauren can respond. So this is the same documentary, not documentary, but same video. And this is another young lady who's going to talk to us about her healing process. So I'm going to read this just in case I started. She says, my daughter expedited my healing process in a way that nothing else could have ever.
Daughter expedited my healing process in a way that nothing else could have ever done. And I believe it caused me to really take a deep evaluation into what did I believe about my womanhood. I didn't want her to associate her life as a Black woman with your ability to endure and withstand a great deal of pain and still be able to say, well, I'm strong enough to get through that.
Both Keys and Gascombe say the first step to ensuring the health of Black women is reminding them to take care of themselves. They believe philanthropy starts with self.
At some point, you're going to have to learn how to save yourself. And that is that radical self-love and that radical self-care.
Hey guys, thanks.
All right, guys. I mean, I love this. Thank you, AJ Plus, for doing this and putting this together because it is a necessary conversation that we must have. So, Lauren, I just want you to give us, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to us about what your thoughts are about that, right? Like, her daughter was a catalyst to her change. Talk to us.
Okay, this is the first clip that's not bringing me rage, so we didn't come. I'm coming down.
That's why we ending on a good note, baby.
We're ending on a good note. I think this is beautiful, and I think it echoes the sentiments that I've been sharing throughout the afternoon around this work has to be approached delicately and with love. Black women need to be approached delicately and with love, and I think her note about her daughter being the catalyst for her change is probably what many of our mothers and grandmothers experienced, and maybe even and some of our listeners, from a place of I wasn't able to see the system that I was in until I brought forth another life and thought about how I want her to live, right? And I think in that moment, maybe her daughter was really reflective of herself, right? Because she's now guiding someone else through this same system and realizing, oh my gosh, here I am. I've been chugging along this whole time, but I don't want that for you, right? And I think the daughter in this case might really just be symbolic of ourselves. I don't want that for you, right? I think, it shouldn't have to take till we have a child to want to do better. But I think that is a natural experience of, okay, this is how I was doing it for me, but for you, we're gonna
remember,
get it right.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
That was another one.
That's one of the isms, right?
Right.
But I think maybe that's growing into let me do how I'm saying, right? Or that wasn't as articulate, but let me live the way that I'm teaching you and telling you to live. Let me show you how to do that. And he mentioned the radical self-love and self-care and saving yourself, right? Because we haven't really talked about how in all of the stress and trauma that Black women experience, there's a hopelessness, and the standard, teaches us that Black womanhood, Black femininity is supposed to be like white femininity, where there's usually someone, a male or whoever, that comes to kind of fix the issues, right? And for many of us, that is not the situation. So the saving yourself, I think it pulls up on that Black woman's strength, but again, not a state of being and not about productivity, right? Save yourself because you're a human who deserves love and compassion, and that it's not another human's job to save you, right? It's not another human's job to make you healthy. I think humans have built the systems that create the inequity. That's the difference, right? So there's a balance between understanding the cards you've been dealt, but also understand that you still playing a game. You still got a hand. So you need to play the hand, right? And not just chuck it up to the cards, right? So it's a balance of, macro understanding what's going on around you, things outside of your control, but also understanding that we have control, and we talked about mental health a little bit, but for Black women that experience anxiety, and I'm sure the numbers are not updated because a lot of us don't report having mental health issues the way that we should because we don't have the language. You see how it's all coming full circle?
Always.
Right? Anxiety takes us out of control, right? And a part of this saving yourself and having safe space and holistic living is understanding no matter what's going on around you, there are things that are within your control and that you can navigate through, right? So I think it's beautiful that that woman, has now found a place where she has a daughter and is now living life through a lens of, let me show you the best way to take care of yourself so that you don't fall into the traps of productivity and self-worth and people pleasing, maybe like she did. And I think that is some of the cornerstones of how because it's inside out, right? We might not change the system all in one decade, one lifetime, one whatever, but if we start reprogramming that inner conditioning, to understand that I am worthy and I'm deserving of living a happy and healthy life. And I do that by loving myself. I do that by seeking out positive community. I do that by having friends. I do that by eating well and exercising, right? So it's one of those things that it has a rippling effect. When I start with me, it's going to ripple out into the people around me, the company I keep, the things I invite myself to. And soon you've built a network that's positive and self-sustaining, but it came from you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Sure.
And for all my Black ladies out there, y'all heard it here, honey. Love yourself, baby. You are beautiful. You is kind. You is smart. You is lovely. You is important. Me and my sister stay saying that. We be like, you and me is never part, Rocky. I mean, whatever you got to do, get your sister circle together. We had a sister circle today, and it doesn't have to be on a podcast. It could literally be a conversation. Sometimes I get on the phone with Queen Zaquetta, and me and her be on the phone for like 4 hours. Sometimes you need that, and it's okay. Create your sphere, create your holistic living. And if you're looking for somebody who will love you unconditionally, find out who Jesus Christ is. He died on Calvary for all of us, guys. And I just want to invite you into that if that is something that you are interested in. Anyway, I want to definitely thank Lauren for her time with us. I mean, this has been a phenomenal conversation, Lauren. I am so thankful to have had you here. And I want to give you an opportunity for any final thoughts that you have. Let us know how we can get in contact with you. And, we'll close out for the day.
Absolutely. Charlene, it's been amazing. As always, we always have good. I'm so appreciative of your platform. I think it's wonderful that we're having Black and beautiful chit chat conversations because that's who we are, right? The title of this podcast really sums it up. We are Black, we are beautiful, and we need to have conversations.
Chit chat.
Right? We gotta chit chat. We gotta chop it up real quick.
Right.
The best way to stay in contact with me right now is email. So that's LaurenDorvil@gmail.com. And I'll also share my Linktree for the show notes if folks are looking to book a consultation with me or learn a little bit more about my workshops.
Guys, you heard it here. All her information is in the description box below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It has been a pleasure to be here with you, my Black and beautiful family, on Black and Beautiful Chit Chat Connections, a podcast. So thank you, Lauren, for your time. Guys, may God bless you and heaven smile upon you. Until next time, peace.